All right, Chief Clem, you're retired from the Border Patrol. You spent how many years out there?
27 and a half years as a Border Patrol agent. The last 2 years of my career, I was the Chief Patrol Agent in Yuma, Arizona. Prior to that, I was the Deputy Chief in El Paso Sector.
All right, give me the years. Give me a range of so people have an idea of when you were out there serving.
5 presidents under Bill Clinton in 1995. So I worked under Clinton, Bush, Obama, Trump, and Biden, and I retired under Biden.
All right, so as I look at the numbers, and you help me with this, as I look at the numbers going back prior to the last 2 or 3 years, it ranged from 300,000 to 400,000 illegals a year. That was under George W., that was under Barack Obama, that was under Donald Trump. And all of a sudden last year it's 3 point whatever million. It's 8 times higher, and yet I keep being told, well, they need to do immigration reform. And to me, something is dramatically wrong with that statement when it's been consistently the same for at least a dozen years. What say you?
Well, I'll tell you a couple things here. My memory will fail me on how many years we go back, but let's say in 2019, we had just over 900,000 arrests. In 2020, that dropped to 405,000 arrests, more or less. But in 21, it went up to 1.66 million. 22, it was 2.2 million, and in 23, it was close to 2.4 million. The difference is this is people from all over the world. In the early years of my career, it was mainly single adult Mexican nationals coming here looking for work. In the early 2000s, we started seeing a bigger uptick in Central Americans. And then in the middle part of the Obama's second term, we started seeing a lot more family units, unaccompanied children. And all of this is basically driven by policy.
Well, right. They're being enticed.
Yes.
Is that a fair way to put it?
That's a fair way to put it. When there's zero consequence, when you can't detain family units, when you can't detain single adults for more than a few days at a time, when you do not put a consequence for somebody breaking the law, that is an invitation to come in here. And that's one of the biggest problems we have with our border security and enforcement continuum is there's no room at the end. So Border Patrol is stuck processing and having to release them, and that's why you're seeing them showing up all over the country.
Right. So in 2019, you're right, there was an anomaly, there was a surge that year. But all the other years going back for a dozen, the total numbers were 300,000, 400,000. And then last year, I see a number of 3.2 million, but maybe that also includes gotaways.
Yes.
Because, look, we're just folks out in the rest of the country trying to figure out what's going on. You're right here. You're on the front lines. You're in the trenches, or you were. You understand this, and that's why we need this explanation so people listening understand what we're dealing with.
I still live in a border state. I live in Arizona. Tucson sector is my backyard. That is one of the busier sectors in the country with the gotaways. They are mainly avoiding apprehension over there. So that means they're your criminal aliens, they're your drug smugglers, they're your potential terrorists that are trying to get away from Border Patrol agents. And again, without border security, without a strong enforcement posture both between the ports of entry and at the ports, lack of consequences, you're going to continue to pull people in there. So we need to have a strong border posture, and we also need to have a better legal pathway for those that want to come over here and work, and instead of waiting in line for decades, where that incentivizes people to come in illegally.
But then coming here, working and going back, that's gone on for decades. That's gone on for centuries.
Right.
They come here, they work, we need the work, the farmers need the help, whoever it may be, and they return home. That also changed. They've come here because it's been incentivized, whether it's gift cards or free phones or a place to stay or a free airline ticket to Chicago or New York. It's changed, hasn't it?
Yes, it's changed. And remember, this administration and many of its supporters and people in the same party ran platforms on defund ICE, abolish ICE. That is the agency that is responsible for detention and removal. So once you're in the interior, once you've been admitted here and you've refused to go back, it's up to ICE to go and apprehend them. But when they have been, had their hands tied behind their back and they can't do their job, that's again an incentive, knowing that once you get over here, if you either turn yourselves into the Border Patrol, you're likely to be processed and released, or if you avoid apprehension, the likelihood of you being caught in the interior by ICE is slim to none based on this administration's posture, because they don't see...
You disappear into the shadows.
That's right. They've made immediate border crossers and national security interests as a priority. Beyond that, it's no longer a priority. So to me, once you're off the border, once you've been processed and released, they're not going to prioritize you.
I want to talk about being invisible on another note here. Coming to McAllen, I've been to Del Rio, I've been to Eagle Pass years ago, 10 years ago. It's totally different now. But in McAllen, you come in, good-looking town, everything's taken care of, nice country club and so forth. But I talked to a minister today who said, yeah, that's all fine and well, but there's a lot going on that you don't see. a lot of strings being pulled by the cartels. You've got a lot of human trafficking, a lot of drug running, a lot of different things that's not right out for everybody to see, but is happening every day. Would you agree with that?
I definitely agree with that. The cartel controls everything that approaches this border from Mexico, whether it's legitimate trade and travel or the illegal trade and travel of people. At some point, somebody's paying somebody to get to the border. This region, this valley area, has seen its fair share of border crises going back from the 90s to the middle 2000s. So the community is very mature in the process. But on the other side, on the bad side of it, so is the cartel. They know how to not draw the attention. That's why things get really heated when you actually hear about gun battles or some kind of shooting down there, because that messes up their business model. Right now, if they're not drawing attention, that means they're profiting. As soon as they get attention, then people have to react. This community has suffered enough, but they've also learned how to adapt and adjust. Keeps it thriving.
Let me ask you this. During lunch today, we stopped at a local place, and there's a guy there that worked for one of the local companies here. He said, we hear gunfire over the border on a regular basis. I'm here to find the truth. I'm here to make sure that we're not telling people things that are not accurate. Is that accurate?
Yeah, so typically when that's happening on the south side,
right,
you're going to have, it could be warring factions between cartels, some gun battles there. Oftentimes it is also them just trying to fire warning shots to try to scare off any would-be law enforcement that may be in the area.
Let me put it this way. Yeah. Let me put it this way. Are we, as Americans, and you and your colleagues in Border Patrol and ICE and the other agencies that work together collectively and collaboratively, are we at war with the cartels?
Absolutely. I mean, they are what is driving this border security crisis. They are the main culprit number one. We've got to get that under control, and you've got to snuff it out from a business perspective. That's the only way, because Mexico is not attacking them. They've proven that doesn't always work. So we have got to figure out how to stop it on this end, reduce the profit, change policies to where they can't, operate with impunity like they have been operating. Secure the border so we can control how things are going to happen, not the way it's been happening right now.
Well, let's talk about this. Mexico, Catholic Charities, Bethany Christian Services, a whole host of people. And I'm not really picking on those folks. Yeah. This is a business model.
Yes.
There's lots of money being made. Why would Mexico want to stop it when all that money's getting sent home, when all that money's coming through? Why would they want to stop it?
Well, I always say, when you hear elected officials say it's a humanitarian crisis, they're putting people in harm's way. They are the policies, both here in the United States and the way Mexico allows migration, is allowing human exploitation. So if we're really going to care and make this a humanitarian crisis, we need to stop it. We need to put the policies in place. But to your point about some of these non-government organizations, I'm not going to say that they are in the business to profit because they're nonprofits, but they are getting reimbursed.
They're making a fortune.
Absolutely. So you
can call it what you want. They're making a fortune.
So there is a business process here, right? And let's just for your audience, in last fiscal year, the Border Patrol caught and released 900,000 people, and there was 500,000 at the port that were caught and released. We paid, at least when I was in Yuma, we were spending anywhere from $450,000 to about $480,000 a day for our processing facilities. We're reimbursing the non-government organizations dollar for dollar.
Right.
And now you have sanctuary cities asking for $5 billion of the federal government's money to help them deal with the migrant crisis. So in theory, we're paying for some of these migrants 3 times as taxpayers. We got to get this right. We're paying how much for gas, how much for groceries, and now we're